The patrol ship moved slowly through the dark space near the edge of the Vaxen Empire. Commander Drexen sat in his chair on the bridge watching the stars outside. His crew worked quietly at their stations. Everything seemed normal. This was just another boring patrol in a quiet sector of space where nothing ever happened. Drexen had been doing this job for 20 cycles. The Vaxen Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. They were the most powerful force in this part of the galaxy. No one dared to challenge them. Their ships were strong. Their weapons were deadly. Other species feared them or served them. That was just how things were. The sensor officer suddenly made a noise. Drexen looked at him. The young officer was staring at his screen with wide eyes. "What is it?" asked Drexen. "Sir, there is something on the sensors. I have never seen anything like this before." Drexen stood up and walked over to the sensor station. He looked at the screen. There was indeed something strange. A ship was approaching, but the readings made no sense. The energy output was enormous. The size was much larger than any Vaxen warship, and it was moving faster than should be possible. "Is this a sensor error?" Drexen asked. "No, sir. I have checked 3 times. The readings are accurate." Drexen felt a strange feeling in his chest. Uncertainty. He had not felt that in many cycles. Who could build a ship like that? The Vaxen Empire had the best technology. They had conquered dozens of other species and taken their knowledge. No one should have ships better than theirs. "Try to contact them," Drexen ordered. The communications officer worked at his station. After a moment, he spoke. "I am receiving a response, sir. They are transmitting on standard frequencies. The language is being translated now." A voice came through the speakers on the bridge. It was clear and calm. "This is Captain Ryan Foster of the Earth vessel Liberty. We are on a peaceful exploration mission. We mean no harm to anyone." Drexen frowned. Earth? He had never heard of such a place. He accessed the Empire database through his command chair. There was nothing about Earth, nothing about humans. These were unknown aliens. "This is Commander Drexen of the Vaxen Imperial Patrol. You have entered space controlled by the Vaxen Empire. State your origin and purpose immediately." There was a pause. Then the human captain spoke again. "We come from a planet called Earth. It is located approximately 200 light-years from your position. We recently developed faster-than-light travel. We are exploring nearby star systems to learn about other civilizations. We did not know this area was claimed by your empire. We apologize for any intrusion." Drexen looked at his tactical officer. "Show me the ship on visual." The main screen changed. It now showed the human ship. Drexen felt his blood run cold. The vessel was massive. It was easily 3 times the size of his patrol ship. But size alone was not what shocked him. The design was completely different from anything he had seen. Smooth curves, strange markings, and most disturbing of all, weapons ports. Many weapons ports. The ship looked peaceful, but it was clearly built for war if needed. "How long ago did they develop faster-than-light travel?" Drexen asked. The communications officer checked. "According to their transmission, approximately 15 cycles ago, sir." 15 cycles. That was impossible. The Vaxen Empire had taken 500 cycles to develop their current technology. Even the fastest developing species they had encountered needed at least 200 cycles. How could these humans build such advanced ships in only 15 cycles? "You say you recently achieved faster-than-light travel," Drexen said carefully. "Yet your ship appears very advanced. How is this possible?" The human captain seemed confused by the question. "Well, we have been working on space technology for about 100 years. We sent probes to other planets in our system long before we achieved FTL. This ship represents our current level of engineering. Is there a problem, Commander?" Drexen did not answer. His mind was racing. 100 years of space technology. The Vaxen had been traveling in space for thousands of cycles. Yet this human ship looked more advanced than most Vaxen military vessels. Something was very wrong here. "I need to report this to my superiors," Drexen said. "Please remain in your current position. Do not proceed further into Imperial space." "Understood, Commander. We will wait here for your instructions." Drexen cut the communication. He turned to his crew. "Send an urgent message to Fleet Command. Priority 1. Tell them we have encountered an unknown species with technology that may exceed our own. Include all sensor data and recordings of our conversation." The crew worked quickly. Within minutes, the message was sent. Now they could only wait for a response. On the other ship, Captain Ryan Foster sat in his command chair. His crew looked worried. His first officer, Lieutenant Kate Morgan, spoke quietly. "Captain, they seemed very surprised by our ship. Do you think we revealed too much?" Ryan shook his head. "We were honest. We are here to make peaceful contact. Hiding our capabilities would only create mistrust later. Besides, the Liberty is just an exploration vessel. It is not even one of our military ships." Kate looked uncomfortable. "That is what worries me, sir. If they are this shocked by an exploration ship, what will they think when they learn about our actual military fleet?" Ryan had no answer for that. Earth had been preparing for contact with alien life for decades. They had built their ships with the assumption that space might be dangerous. The Liberty had shields, weapons, and armor. But compared to Earth's actual warships, it was nothing special. Just a well-equipped exploration vessel. "What are their weapons like?" asked Kate. The tactical officer, Lieutenant Dan Harper, checked his sensors. "Primitive, sir. Their patrol ship has energy weapons and kinetic missiles. Nothing that could penetrate our shields. Their power generation is about 30% of ours. Their engines are much slower. Honestly, sir, their technology looks like it is a few hundred years behind ours." Ryan frowned. That did not make sense. This Vaxen Empire controlled hundreds of star systems. They must have been in space for a very long time. How could their technology be so far behind? Unless Earth's development had been unusually fast. That was a disturbing thought. Back on the patrol ship, a response came from Fleet Command much faster than Drexen expected. His communication officer looked pale as he read the message. "Sir, Fleet Command is ordering us to maintain position and continue monitoring the human ship. They are dispatching a battle group to our location. Admiral Corin himself is coming. Admiral Corin, the Supreme Commander of the Vaxen fleet." Drexen had never met him. The Admiral only got involved in the most serious situations. This confirmed Drexen's fears. This was indeed a crisis. "How long until they arrive?" Drexen asked. 6 hours, sir." 6 hours. It would be a long wait. Drexen looked at the human ship on his screen. It just sat there, peaceful and patient. But he could not shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The Vaxen Empire had ruled this region of space for thousands of cycles. They had never faced a real challenge to their power. Now these humans had appeared with ships that should not exist. Drexen had a dark thought. What if the humans were not alone? What if there were more of them? What if this was just one small ship from a vast fleet? The implications were terrifying. He pushed the thought away. There was nothing he could do but wait. Wait and hope that Admiral Corin would know how to handle this situation. Because for the first time in his life, Commander Drexen felt afraid of the unknown. The human ship called Liberty continued to wait peacefully in the darkness of space. Its crew had no idea that their simple exploration mission had just triggered a panic at the highest levels of the Vaxen Empire. They did not know that their ship, which they considered fairly ordinary, looked like a technological marvel to the aliens. They were just humans doing what humans did best, building, exploring, and reaching for the stars. And the Empire was about to learn that humans had not been meant to possess ships like that. But they did anyway, because humans were very good at doing things they were not meant to do. Admiral Corin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Dominion. Around him, 15 warships moved in formation. This was one of the strongest battle groups in the Vaxen fleet. He had commanded these ships for 40 cycles. They had crushed rebellions and conquered new territories. But today, Corin felt uncertain. The report from Commander Drexen had been disturbing. An unknown species with advanced technology. A ship that made no sense. Corin had reviewed all the sensor data multiple times. Each time he became more concerned. The energy readings from the human ship were incredible. If those readings were accurate, the humans had power generation that exceeded anything the Vaxen Empire possessed. "Admiral, we are approaching the patrol ship's position," said his tactical officer. "Good. Maintain combat formation. Shields at maximum. Weapons ready but not powered up. I do not want to appear hostile, but we must be prepared for anything." Yes, Admiral Corin had been in space combat many times. He knew how to read situations, how to judge an enemy's strength. But this time was different. He was flying blind. These humans were completely unknown. Their capabilities were a mystery. And that made them dangerous. The Dominion dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The other warships appeared around it. Commander Drexen's patrol ship was visible in the distance, and beyond it, the human vessel. Corvin stared at the human ship on his screen. It was beautiful. That was the only word he could think of. The design was elegant, smooth. Unlike the harsh angles and brutal efficiency of Vaxen ships, the human vessel looked almost artistic. But Corvin knew that beauty could hide deadly power. "Admiral, the human ship is hailing us. Open the channel." The same calm voice from the earlier recording spoke. "This is Captain Ryan Foster of the Earth vessel Liberty. Welcome, Admiral. We were told you wished to speak with us. We are happy to talk." Corvin took a moment before responding. He needed to be careful with his words. "I am Admiral Corvin, Supreme Commander of the Vaxen Imperial Fleet. Your presence here has created many questions. We need to understand who you are and where you come from." "Of course, Admiral. We understand your concern. We are explorers from the planet Earth. Our world is located in what you might call the outer regions of this galactic arm. We achieved faster than light capability 15 years ago. Since then, we have been slowly exploring nearby star systems. This is actually our first contact with another spacefaring civilization. We are very excited to meet you." Corvin felt his heart sink. First contact. These humans had no experience with other species. That could be good or bad. It meant they were innocent. But it also meant they were unpredictable. "How many ships does Earth possess?" Corvin asked. There was a pause. Then Captain Foster answered. "I'm not sure I should share detailed military information, Admiral. But I can tell you that Earth has a fleet. We built many ships because space is vast and potentially dangerous. The Liberty is an exploration vessel. We have larger ships designed for defense. But we are a peaceful species. We only fight when we must protect ourselves." Corvin exchanged glances with his officers. The human had been diplomatic but clear. They had military ships, larger than the Liberty. That was very bad news. "Captain Foster, I must be honest with you. Your ship's technology appears very advanced. More advanced than ours in many ways. This is concerning to us. The Vaxen Empire has ruled this region for thousands of cycles. We are not accustomed to encountering species with superior technology." The human captain sounded surprised. "Superior? Admiral, I think there may be a misunderstanding. The Liberty is just a standard exploration vessel. She has good shields and weapons for self-defense, but she is not particularly special by Earth standards." "Are you saying your ships cannot match her capabilities?" Corvin felt anger and fear mix in his chest. The human was not boasting. He was genuinely confused. That meant the Liberty really was just an ordinary ship to them, which meant their military vessels must be far more powerful. "Our technology is different," Corvin said carefully. "We would like to learn more about Earth and your people. Perhaps we could arrange a cultural exchange. Some of my officers could visit your ship. Some of your crew could visit mine." Captain Foster agreed immediately. "That sounds wonderful, Admiral. We would be honored to host your officers. When would you like to begin?" "Within the hour if possible." "Perfect. We will prepare to receive your shuttle." Corvin cut the transmission. He turned to his intelligence officer, a clever female named Zena. "Prepare a team. I want you to learn everything you can about that ship. Its weapons, its engines, its power systems, everything. But be subtle. These humans seem friendly. I do not want to make them suspicious or hostile." Zena nodded. "Understood, Admiral. I will select my team carefully." On the Liberty, Captain Ryan Foster turned to his first officer. "Kate, prepare to receive visitors. Show them around. Be friendly. But make sure someone is with them at all times. I do not think they mean us harm, but we should be cautious." Kate Morgan smiled. "Of course, Captain. Should we show them everything?" Ryan thought about that. "Show them the public areas, the crew quarters, the dining hall, the observation deck. If they ask about our technology, be honest but not detailed. We are not trying to hide anything, but we do not need to give them blueprints either." An hour later, a Vaxen shuttle approached the Liberty. It docked smoothly with the human ship. The airlock opened. Lieutenant Kate Morgan stood waiting with two security officers. She smiled warmly as the Vaxen visitors entered. "Welcome aboard the Liberty," Kate said. "I am Lieutenant Morgan. I will be your guide today." The lead Vaxen officer stepped forward. She was tall and thin with blue skin and large eyes. "I am Intelligence Officer Zena. Thank you for receiving us." Kate led them through the ship. The Vaxen officers looked at everything with wide eyes. The corridors were clean and bright. The technology was sleek and modern. Everything seemed to work perfectly. "This is our main crew deck," Kate explained. "We have quarters for 80 people. The Liberty is designed for long-duration missions. We can stay in space for up to 3 years without resupply." Zena made notes on her device. 3 years. That is impressive. How do you manage food and water for so long? We have advanced recycling systems. We can convert almost any organic waste back into usable materials. We also have hydroponics bays where we grow fresh vegetables. Would you like to see them? Yes, please. Kate showed them the hydroponics section. The Vaxen officers stared at the rows of green plants growing under artificial lights. Their own ships had nothing like this. They relied on stored food and periodic resupply. The idea of growing food on a ship was revolutionary to them. As they walked, Zena asked many questions. Kate answered most of them honestly. She showed them the crew quarters, which were comfortable and spacious. She showed them the medical bay, which had equipment the Vaxen had never seen. She showed them the recreation area, where off-duty crew could relax and exercise. Finally, they reached the observation deck. It was a large room with windows looking out into space. Several crew members were there reading or talking quietly. They looked up and smiled at the visitors. Zena was struck by how relaxed the humans seemed. On Vaxen ships, discipline was strict. Crew members did their jobs and nothing more. But here the humans seemed happy. They enjoyed being on this ship. Your crew seems very content, Zena observed. Kate nodded. We try to make life comfortable for everyone. Space travel can be lonely. It is important to maintain morale. Happy crew members work better and make fewer mistakes. That made sense to Zena. But it was not how the Vaxen Empire operated. They relied on strict discipline and fear. Perhaps that was a mistake. Can we see your engine room? Zena asked. Kate hesitated. That is a restricted area. Only engineering staff are allowed there. But I can show you a diagram if you like. We have educational displays about how our systems work. Zena accepted that. She did not want to push too hard. Kate took them to a computer display and showed them a simplified diagram of the ship's power system. Even simplified, it was impressive. The fusion reactors produced enormous amounts of energy. The engines could accelerate the ship to incredible speeds. The shields could absorb massive amounts of damage. After 2 hours, the tour ended. Zena and her team returned to their shuttle. As they flew back to the Dominion, Zena reviewed her notes. Everything she had seen confirmed her worst fears. The human ship was superior to Vaxen technology in almost every way. Better engines, better power systems, better life support, better everything. And this was just an exploration ship. When she reported to Admiral Corin, his face grew dark. He dismissed everyone else from the bridge. Then he spoke quietly to Zena. Tell me honestly, if we went to war with these humans, could we win? Zena chose her words carefully. Admiral, based on what I saw, one human exploration ship could probably fight 3 of our patrol vessels and win. Their military ships must be much more powerful. If they have a fleet of such vessels, we would have no chance. None at all. Corin was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision. Send a message to the Emperor. Tell him we have encountered a species that poses an existential threat to the Empire. Recommend immediate diplomatic outreach. We must make these humans our allies, because we cannot afford to make them our enemies. The Emperor of the Vaxen Empire sat on his throne in the Grand Palace. His name was Theron, and he had ruled for 60 cycles. In that time, he had expanded the Empire's borders. He had crushed rebellions. He had made his people strong and feared throughout this region of space. But now, reading Admiral Corin's report, he felt something he had not felt in many cycles. He felt afraid. The humans were not supposed to exist. Their technology was impossible. They had achieved in 100 years what the Vaxen had taken thousands of cycles to accomplish. And according to the report, they had done it without conquering other species, without stealing technology. They had simply built it themselves. How was that possible? Theron called his council together. They met in a secure chamber deep within the palace. 6 of the most powerful individuals in the Empire, military leaders, scientists, diplomats, all of them had read the report. All of them looked worried. Theron spoke first. Tell me honestly, is this report accurate? Could one species really develop so quickly? The chief scientist, an old male named Vex, nodded slowly. The sensor data does not lie, Emperor. The human ship generates more power than our largest battleships. Their shields are stronger. Their weapons appear more advanced. If intelligence officer Zena's observations are accurate, their engineering is far superior to ours. But how? Theron demanded. We have been in space for thousands of cycles. We have absorbed the knowledge of dozens of conquered species. How can newcomers surpass us? Vex looked uncomfortable. Emperor, I believe the answer lies in their approach to development. We Vaxen advance through conquest. We take what others have built and add it to our own knowledge, but this means we are limited by the quality of what we take. The humans, however, appeared to have developed everything themselves. They started from nothing and built their way up. Perhaps that forced them to be more innovative, more creative. The military commander, General Crick, spoke up. The method does not matter. What matters is that they are now more advanced than us. This threatens our entire way of life. If the humans decide to expand their territory, we could not stop them. Do we know how many ships they have? Asked Theron. No, Emperor. They have been careful not to reveal that information. But we must assume they have a significant fleet. A species does not build ships that advanced unless they have the industrial capacity to build many of them. Theron looked at his diplomatic advisor, a female named Sira. What do we know about human culture? Sira consulted her notes. Very little, Emperor. Captain Foster said they are explorers. They claim to be peaceful, but we cannot verify this. They are unknown to us. They could be lying, or they could be telling the truth, said Vex. Consider this, Emperor. If they wanted to attack us, they could have done so already. Instead, they waited peacefully when we asked them to. They welcomed our officers onto their ship. They answered questions honestly. These are not the actions of a hostile species, or they are very clever, said Crix. Perhaps they are studying us, learning our weaknesses before they strike. Theron raised a hand for silence. Enough speculation. Here is what we know. The humans are technologically superior. They are currently peaceful. We do not know their true intentions. Given this situation, what should we do? There was silence in the chamber. Finally, Sira spoke. Emperor, I believe we have only one real option. We must befriend them. We must offer them alliance, trade, cultural exchange. We must make them see us as partners, not threats. Because if they see us as threats, we are finished. The Empire does not make alliances, Crix protested. We conquer or we dominate. We do not bow to others, then we must learn to, Sira said firmly. The alternative is extinction. Pride will not save us if the humans decide we are enemies. Theron considered this. It went against everything the Vaxen Empire stood for. But Sira was right. Pride was worthless if your civilization was destroyed. Very well, Theron decided. Send a message to Admiral Corin. Tell him to open formal diplomatic relations with the humans. Invite them to send a delegation to our capital. We will host them with all honors. We will show them that the Vaxen Empire can be a valuable friend. The council members nodded. It was decided. The Empire would change its approach. They would try something they had never done before. They would try to make friends instead of subjects. Back at the Liberty, Captain Ryan Foster received the invitation with surprise. He read it carefully, then called a meeting with his senior officers. They want us to visit their capital world, Ryan said. They are offering to host a diplomatic delegation. This seems very sudden. What do you think? Kate Morgan frowned. It does seem rushed, sir. We only made contact a few days ago. Now they want formal relations? Something is making them nervous. Lieutenant Dan Harper, the tactical officer, spoke up. I think I know what it is, sir. I have been analyzing their ships. Their technology is significantly behind ours, maybe 200 or 300 years behind. They must have realized this when they visited us. They are afraid of us. Ryan felt uncomfortable with that idea. We are not here to frighten anyone. We just wanted to explore and make peaceful contact, I know, sir. But think about it from their perspective. They are a powerful empire. They probably thought they were the strongest force in this region. Then we show up with better technology. That must be terrifying for them. Kate added her thoughts. If they are afraid, that could be dangerous. Afraid people make bad decisions. But it could also be an opportunity. If we handle this correctly, we could establish a real friendship with them. That would be valuable for Earth, Ryan nodded. You are right. We should accept the invitation. But we need to be careful. We need to show them we are not a threat, while also not appearing weak. That is a difficult balance. He sent a message to Earth Command explaining the situation. The response came back within hours. Earth was very interested in establishing relations with the Vaxen Empire. They authorized Ryan to proceed with the diplomatic visit. They also sent additional instructions. Be honest, be friendly, but do not reveal specific details about Earth's military capabilities. Let them wonder. Ryan selected a team for the diplomatic mission. Kate would come with him. So would Dan, the tactical officer. and Lieutenant Amy Price, their communications specialist. 4 people. Small enough to not seem threatening, large enough to handle any problems. They traveled to the Vaxen capital world on a Vaxen shuttle. The flight took 6 hours. During that time, Ryan reviewed everything he knew about the Vaxen Empire. They controlled over 200 star systems. They had a population in the billions. They had a strict hierarchy with the Emperor at the top. They valued strength and order above all else. When they arrived at the capital, Ryan was impressed despite himself. The city was enormous. Towers reached high into the sky. Vehicles flew in organized patterns. Everything looked efficient and orderly. It was clear the Vaxen were good at organization and planning. They were escorted to the palace by honor guards. The guards wore impressive armor and carried weapons. But Ryan noticed the weapons were pointed down, not threatening. The Vaxen were making an effort to appear friendly. Emperor Theron received them in a grand hall. He sat on a throne made of some dark metal. He was tall and imposing, with silver skin and sharp features. But when he spoke, his voice was warm. "Welcome, humans. I am Emperor Theron of the Vaxen Empire. We are honored to host the first contact between our peoples." Ryan stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you, Emperor. I am Captain Ryan Foster of Earth. We are grateful for your hospitality. We hope this is the beginning of a long friendship between our peoples." Theron smiled. "A friendship would be most welcome. Please sit. We have much to discuss." They sat at a long table. Food and drink were brought. The Vaxen had clearly researched human dietary needs. Everything served was safe for humans to eat. The meal was delicious. As they ate, Theron asked questions about Earth. Ryan answered honestly but carefully. He described Earth's history, its culture, its achievements. He explained that humans valued freedom and exploration, that they preferred peace but would defend themselves if attacked, that they were always looking to learn and grow. Theron listened carefully. Then he asked the question Ryan had been expecting. "How many ships does Earth have?" Ryan chose his words carefully. "We have enough ships to defend our interests, Emperor. The exact number is not something I am authorized to share, but I can tell you that we have no intention of expanding into Vaxen space. We have plenty of empty systems near Earth to explore and colonize. We do not need to take territory from others." Theron nodded slowly. "That is good to hear. The Vaxen Empire has also expanded as far as we wish. Perhaps our borders can remain stable. Perhaps we can focus on trade and cultural exchange instead of competition." "I think that would be excellent," Ryan agreed. They talked for hours. Slowly, carefully, they began to build a foundation for peaceful relations. Both sides were cautious. Both sides had concerns. But both sides also saw the value in friendship rather than conflict. Finally, as the meeting was ending, Theron asked one more question. "Captain Foster, may I ask you something personal?" "Of course, Emperor. How did your people advance so quickly? It took us thousands of cycles to reach our current level. You did it in a fraction of that time. What is your secret?" 3 months had passed since the first contact between humans and the Vaxen Empire. In that time, many things had changed. A formal treaty had been signed. Trade routes had been established. Cultural exchange programs had begun. On the surface, everything looked peaceful and positive. But beneath that surface, tensions remained. The Vaxen military was deeply concerned about the human threat. General Crix had been gathering intelligence. His officers had observed human ships whenever possible. They had collected every scrap of data they could find, and the more they learned, the more worried they became. Crix stood in the war room of his headquarters, looking at star charts and tactical displays. His staff had assembled every piece of information they had about human capabilities. It was not a complete picture. The humans were careful about what they revealed, but it was enough to paint a disturbing picture. "We have confirmed the existence of at least 20 human ships," one officer reported. "All of them are exploration or science vessels. We have not yet seen any of their military ships." Crix frowned. "And how do these exploration ships compare to our warships?" The officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, our best estimates suggest that one human exploration ship could defeat 3 of our cruisers. Their shields are simply too strong, their weapons too powerful, and their military ships? We do not know, sir. The humans have not shown them to us. But logic suggests they must be significantly more powerful than their exploration vessels." Crix walked to the star chart and stared at it. 20 exploration ships, each one more powerful than multiple Vaxen warships. And somewhere out there, hidden from view, was a human military fleet of unknown size and capability. It was a nightmare scenario. "What is your recommendation, General?" asked one of his advisors. Crix was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke. "We cannot fight them. That much is clear. If conflict arose, we would lose. Badly. Our only option is to ensure that conflict never arises. We must maintain friendly relations at all costs." The advisors nodded. It was a bitter truth to accept. The Vaxen Empire, which had been supreme in this region for so long, was now dependent on the goodwill of newcomers. But it was better to swallow pride than to face extinction. "There's one more thing, sir," another officer said hesitantly. "What is it?" "We have received reports from some of our subject species. Apparently humans have been making contact with them as well. The humans are offering friendship and trade. They are not demanding tribute or obedience. Just cooperation." Crix felt a chill. The subject species had been conquered by the Vaxen long ago. They served the Empire because they had no choice. But if the humans offered them an alternative, a way to be free, what would stop them from rebelling? "This information must reach the Emperor immediately," Crix said. "The implications are enormous." When Emperor Theron received the report, he called an emergency council meeting. This time, more people were present. The entire government needed to understand the situation. Theron stood before the assembled officials. "The humans are making contact with our subject species. They are offering them friendship and trade. This could destabilize the entire empire. If our subjects decide they prefer human partnership to Vaxen rule, we could face multiple rebellions." There was immediate uproar. Voices raised in anger and fear. Theron let them speak for a moment, then raised his hand for silence. "We have two choices," Theron said calmly. "We can see this as a threat and try to stop it, or we can see it as an opportunity and adapt to it. I believe adaptation is the only viable option." "What do you mean, Emperor?" asked Sira. Theron chose his words carefully. "The Vaxen Empire was built on conquest and domination. We forced others to serve us. But the humans have shown us a different way. They make friends instead of subjects. They offer partnership instead of demanding obedience. And their way seems to work. They are technologically superior despite being younger than us. Perhaps there is a lesson in that." "You suggest we should copy the humans?" asked General Crix. "I suggest we should evolve," Theron replied. "The old ways served us well. But times have changed. We are no longer the strongest power in this region. If we want to survive and thrive, we must change as well. We must transform the Empire from a dominion of conquered peoples into an alliance of willing partners." There was shocked silence in the chamber. What Theron was suggesting was revolutionary. It would change everything about how the Vaxen Empire operated. But looking around the room, Theron saw that some of his advisors understood. They could see that the alternative to change was eventual collapse. "How would this work?" asked Sira. "We would begin by offering our subject species more autonomy," Theron explained. "They would still be part of the Empire, but as partners rather than subjects. We would reduce their tribute. We would give them representation in our government. We would make it better to stay with us than to leave us, and if they still choose to leave," asked Crix. "Then we let them go peacefully," Theron said firmly. "Holding them by force would only create resentment and eventual rebellion. Better to part as friends than to fight as enemies." The council debated for hours. But in the end, they agreed with Theron. The Empire would begin a program of reform. It would be difficult. Many Vaxen would resist change, but it was necessary for survival. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Ryan Foster had returned home. He had been debriefed by Earth Command and asked to write a detailed report on the Vaxen Empire. Now he sat in his apartment looking out at the ocean, thinking about everything that had happened. His communicator chimed. It was Kate Morgan. Ryan answered. "Captain, have you seen the news?" Kate asked. "No, what happened?" "The Vaxen Emperor just made a public announcement. He is reforming the Empire, giving more rights to the subject species, turning the Empire into some kind of federation. It is huge news." Ryan was surprised. He pulled up the news on his screen. Kate was right. Emperor Theron had announced sweeping reforms. The Vaxen Empire would transform over the next few years into a more democratic confederation. Subject species would become equal partners. The age of conquest was over. "Do you think we caused this?" Kate asked. Ryan thought about that. "Maybe. We showed them a different way of doing things. We proved that cooperation can be more effective than domination. But ultimately, Emperor Theron made this choice himself. He saw what needed to be done and had the courage to do it. That deserves respect. What do you think will happen now? Kate asked. I think things will get better, Ryan said. Not quickly, not easily, but better. The Vaxen are learning that strength comes from cooperation, not domination. That is a valuable lesson, and if they can learn it, maybe others can too. They talked for a while longer, then said goodbye. Ryan turned back to the ocean view. He thought about the Liberty still out there in space. He thought about all the other human ships exploring the galaxy, meeting new species, making new friends. Humanity had been in space for only a short time, but they had already made a difference. They had shown that advanced technology could be developed quickly if you were creative and persistent. They had shown that peaceful cooperation was possible even between very different species. They had shown that change was possible even for ancient empires set in their ways. Some species were meant to build slowly, taking thousands of years to advance. Humans were different. They built fast. They innovated constantly. They never accepted limitations. And now the galaxy was starting to understand what that meant. Back on the Vaxen capital world, Emperor Theron met with his closest advisors. The reforms had been announced. Now came the hard part. Actually implementing them. There will be resistance, Sira warned. Many Vaxen benefit from the current system. They will not give up their power easily. I know, Theron said, but we will proceed anyway. Because the alternative is worse. The humans showed us what is possible. Now we must have the courage to change, for the good of all our people. And if some Vaxen refuse to accept the reforms, asked Crix, then they will be left behind, Theron said firmly. The galaxy is changing. We must change with it or become irrelevant. I will not let the Vaxen Empire fade into history because we were too proud to adapt. His advisors nodded. They understood. The humans had forced the Empire to confront uncomfortable truths. But perhaps that was not a bad thing. Perhaps it was exactly what they needed. A push to become better, to evolve beyond their old ways. The humans were not supposed to possess ships like that. Ships so advanced, so powerful. They were not supposed to develop so quickly. They were not supposed to challenge the established order. But they did. Because that was what humans did. They did the impossible, and in doing so they changed the galaxy forever. 1 year had passed since the first contact between humans and the Vaxen Empire. Many things had changed in that time. The reforms Emperor Theron announced were slowly being implemented. Some Vaxen resisted, but most accepted that change was necessary. The subject species were gaining more rights and autonomy. Trade between human and Vaxen space was flourishing. Both civilizations were learning from each other. But the biggest change was happening in how other species viewed humans. Word had spread across the galaxy about the advanced newcomers. Other civilizations heard about the ships that seemed impossible. About the technology that developed in decades rather than centuries. About the peaceful explorers who could have conquered but chose friendship instead. On a space station at the border between Vaxon and human territory, a meeting was taking place. Representatives from 12 different species had gathered. Some were old allies of the Vaxen Empire, some were neutral parties. All of them wanted to meet these mysterious humans. Captain Ryan Foster had been selected to represent Earth at this meeting. He stood in the conference room, looking at the assembled aliens. They were all so different. Different shapes, different colors, different ways of communicating. But they all had one thing in common. They were all curious about humans. A delegate from a species called the Rathani spoke first. Captain Foster, we have heard remarkable stories about human technology. Some say your ships are centuries ahead of anything else in this region. Is this true? Ryan chose his words carefully. Our ships are advanced, yes, but I would not say we are centuries ahead of everyone. Different species develop different technologies. We happen to be good at certain things. Others are good at different things. We believe we can all learn from each other. A delegate from another species spoke up. But how did you advance so quickly? My people have been in space for 5,000 years, yet you achieved similar technology in only 100 years. What is your secret? Ryan smiled. There is no secret, just hard work and persistence. Humans are naturally curious. We always want to understand how things work. When we face a problem, we do not give up. We try different solutions until we find one that works. We also share knowledge freely among ourselves. Every human scientist can build on the work of those who came before. That speeds up progress significantly. The Rothani delegate seemed thoughtful. So you advance through cooperation rather than competition? Both, actually, Ryan said. We compete with each other to come up with the best ideas, but we also cooperate to build on those ideas. Competition drives innovation. Cooperation spreads that innovation to everyone. Together, they create rapid progress. Admiral Corin was also present at the meeting. He had become something of a friend to Ryan over the past year. Now he spoke up. I can confirm that human technology is indeed very advanced. But I can also confirm that humans are peaceful and honest. They have never threatened us. They have kept every promise they made. If you are considering relations with Earth, I recommend it strongly. The delegates asked many more questions. Ryan answered them all patiently. He explained Earth's history, its values, its goals. He made it clear that humans were interested in friendship and trade, not conquest or domination. By the end of the meeting, several species had expressed interest in establishing formal relations with Earth. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchanges were proposed. The foundation for a wider network of cooperation was being laid. After the meeting ended, Ryan and Corin walked together through the station. They found a quiet observation deck and looked out at the stars. You have changed everything, Corin said quietly. Before you came, this region of space was dominated by fear and power. The strong conquered the weak. Now things are different. Now there is hope for something better. Ryan shook his head. We did not change anything alone, Admiral. Emperor Theron chose to reform the Empire. That was his decision, not ours. We just showed him that another way was possible. But you did show us, Corin insisted. Without your example, we might never have changed. We would have continued on the same path until it led to our destruction. You saved us from ourselves. They stood in silence for a moment watching the stars. Then Corin asked a question he had been wondering about for months. Captain, can I ask you something personal? Of course. When you first arrived and we panicked about your ships, did you realize how afraid we were? Ryan nodded. Yes, we realized it pretty quickly. Your reaction made it clear that you saw our technology as a threat. And yet you stayed peaceful. You did not use our fear against us. Why? Ryan thought about how to explain. Admiral, humans have a long history. We have fought many wars among ourselves. We know what fear and violence lead to. Destruction, suffering, loss. We learned those lessons the hard way. Now that we are exploring space, we want to do better. We want to build friendships, not empires. We want to learn, not conquer. Yes, we could have used your fear against you. But what would that have accomplished? It would have made enemies instead of friends. It would have repeated the mistakes of our past. Corin felt deep respect for this human. So much power, yet used with such restraint. It was a lesson the Vaxen were still learning. What will humans do now? Corin asked. Now that you have established relations with us and others? We will keep exploring, Ryan said. There are billions of stars in this galaxy. Millions of worlds. We want to see them all. Meet everyone. Learn everything. That is what drives us. The desire to understand the universe and our place in it. And if you encounter hostile species that attack rather than talk, then we will defend ourselves, Ryan said quietly. We prefer peace, but we are not naive. We build strong ships precisely because we know space can be dangerous. But defense is our last resort, not our first choice. We will always try to talk first. Back on Earth, in the headquarters of the Space Exploration Council, a meeting was taking place. Leaders from various Earth nations gathered to discuss the progress of their space program. On the main screen, data scrolled past. Contact with 15 alien species. Trade agreements with 8 of them. Cultural exchanges underway with 5. Exploration missions to 40 new star systems planned for the next year. Director Lisa Chen, who led the council, addressed the group. Our expansion into space has exceeded all expectations. We have made peaceful contact with multiple civilizations. We have established Earth as a respected member of the galactic community. And we have done this while maintaining our values of peace and cooperation. One of the leaders raised a concern. Director, there are reports that some species are afraid of us. They see our advanced ships and worry about our intentions. Should we be concerned about this? Lisa nodded. Yes, some species are initially afraid. That is natural. We appeared suddenly with technology they did not expect. But fear fades with familiarity. The Vaxen were afraid at first. Now they are among our closest partners. As we continue to demonstrate peaceful intentions, others will come to trust us as well. We just need to be patient and consistent. Another leader asked, "What about our military fleet? Should we reveal its full size and capability?" Lisa thought carefully before answering. "No, not yet. Let them wonder. Let them know we have strong defenses, but do not give them exact numbers. This serves two purposes. First, it prevents potential enemies from planning attacks based on known capabilities. Second, it encourages others to maintain peaceful relations because they cannot be sure they could win a conflict. It is a delicate balance, but it works." The meeting continued for several hours. Plans were made. Resources were allocated. Humanity's expansion into space would continue, guided by the principles of peaceful exploration and mutual cooperation. Far away, on the Vaxen capital world, Emperor Theron sat in his private chambers. He was reviewing reports on the progress of his reforms. It was difficult work. Some Vaxen resisted change, but others embraced it. Slowly, the Empire was transforming into something better. Sira, his diplomatic advisor, entered the room. "Emperor, I have good news. 3 more subject species have agreed to stay in the reformed Empire as equal partners. They appreciate the new freedoms and representation you have given them." Theron smiled. "That is good news indeed. And the others?" 2 have chosen independence. They are leaving peacefully as you promised they could." Theron felt a moment of sadness, but he knew it was right. Better to let them go freely than to hold them by force. That was a lesson the humans had taught him. In the end, more stayed than left. The reformed empire would be smaller but stronger, united by choice rather than fear. It was a better foundation for the future, and it was all because of those impossible human ships. Ships that were not supposed to exist. Ships that forced the empire to confront its weaknesses and change. Ships built by a species that refused to accept limits. Across the galaxy, humanity continued to expand and explore. More ships were launched. More contact was made. More friendships were formed. The humans were not conquerors. They were builders. They built ships that traveled between stars. They built relationships between different species. They built a future where cooperation was possible. The Empire had panicked when they first saw those human ships. Panicked because the ships represented something they could not understand. Technology that advanced too quickly, power that could have destroyed them.